Is that sweet? I guess so. That's that me espresso.
Morning, everybody. How are we all? I hope you're as caffeinated as I am. Thank you for the introduction, Nikhil. It's a bit of a responsibility to have introduced you to the world of accessibility. And I hope the counsellor's sticking around because the separated bike lanes terrify me. And I'd really like to talk about that at some point. Let's see if we can get some technology working here for a second. Don't mind me. Excuse me. I would like to start by also acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we gather today and pay my respects to elders past and present, First Nations people here today from any country, and also First Nations people with disability. I often talk about reconciliation or deep listening when I talk about my acknowledgements, but today I want to talk about intersectionality, because intersectionality plays a really big part of accessibility. While this isn't a political stage, it is a human one. And today, I stand with First Nations people and people with a disability to mourn the loss of a young man, a young Aboriginal man with disability who died in Alice Springs last week. He died while being detained by police at Coles. I implore our community to not let the short life of that young man be further wasted. And I also implore the Northern Territory government to ensure that there is an independent inquiry, because we need to learn. The process and systems need to learn. We need to change. Today, you're going to hear a lot about disability in its connection to accessibility, but when you add intersectionality, it creates even more complexity, especially for people like you, especially for designers. We're all so diverse, and that's what makes us amazing, is how diverse we are. Have I broken my microphone already? Sorry, it's been happening all day. Especially how diverse we are. When you layer on culture, gender, sexuality, location, age, language, economics, access to technology. I have broken my microphone. Sorry, people. I didn't actually break it. It's just broken. Does anyone want to actually fix that? Okay, sure. Okay, microphone's not helping. I'll just talk louder. So, I'm talking about complexity, but maybe I shouldn't actually start by scaring you away, because you've all been really brave coming here today, and I'm actually really proud of you. So good job. And I say that because I actually think the disability community has got a bit of a brand problem. You will no doubt have seen someone absolutely crucified for getting accessibility wrong. It happens all the time, even to disabled people. I've experienced it myself. And it can make you not want to try. It can make you want to avoid talking about anything to do with accessibility. It even prevents people from sharing improvements because they're scared that it's not going to be enough and they're still going to get into trouble for not having good enough accessibility. Maybe you used a word someone doesn't like. Maybe your social media post was an absolute travesty of accessibility errors, Grant. Maybe you said, let's go for a walk to the person in a wheelchair. I've even seen a pile-on to a parent who's coming to terms with a disability diagnosis for their beautiful new baby. While we can all sit here and put our hands up and go, yes, I know I can change. I recognise that I've done something wrong and that, I can learn from my mistakes. Being shamed publicly doesn't help. The disability community really needs to own that. Yes, there are things that everyone can do better, But for every business that's trying to work on accessibility, there's 100 or more, probably 1,000 who aren't. I maintain my position that no one has ever changed their attitude or behaviour to something by being shamed. Let's face it, if that worked, I'd be skinny. But what I want you to know is that there are many of us, including all of the people you're going to hear from today, who want to create safe spaces for you to ask questions. We want you to learn. We want you to be inspired. We want you to be curious about experiences that might be totally wildly different from your own. I have the privilege of learning from other people's stories every day. It's my job. And I'm blown away by the different experiences that people actually have in the world. Even people who on paper might be having the same experience as me. Everyone comes with their diversity and their intersectionality. So, I haven't actually given you any words of wisdom yet. This presentation has been occupying a fair bit of my brain space. Lots of real estate taken up thinking about, what do I actually want to talk about? I'm someone working in the field. I've been giving presentations on this for 10 plus years. And has much changed? Are things more accessible? 2 people have actually recently shared anecdotes with me of what they remember most about what I have told them, which is amazing. I love hearing that because it's the weird stuff, right? One of them was on LinkedIn. Someone was doing their standard, I'm leaving my job, these are the things I learnt post. And I got a shout out on that, super privileged to get a shout out on that. The thing she remembered, now this is someone I spent multiple hours with talking about user testing, talking about interviews and research with people with disabilities. And the one thing she said she remembered was when I said, "Don't tell me to navigate, I'm not a sailor." Super profound, but I can tell you that that was a throwaway line that was far more representative of my views than any of the insights I've gathered over my career. That's just me. Don't tell me to navigate. Who says that? The second person was someone who I've also spent quite a bit of time with, physically in person, who said, the one thing I remember, the greatest thing I remember that you said is don't leave doors ajar. Deep, right? For those of you who don't know, and this might be the only thing you remember today, is that for the blind and low vision community, doors that are ajar are dangerous because they don't sound quite open or quite closed, and they create all sorts of weird angles. And for some reason, if you've got a black eye and you say, I walked into a door, people don't believe you. All that makes me wonder whether any of these presentations actually do anything for anybody, because they're the things that people remember. So what should I even talk about today? Well, I've decided on some quotes and some nuggets of wisdom, and they're all presented on slides. The only thing my slides will actually tell you is that I'm not a designer. So ultimately, the message of the day is going to be about listening to humans. It's really going to be about being curious, asking questions, and being brave. So coming here is, maybe it's your first step. I don't know how many steps are in the program. I don't think anyone's finished the program yet. But be brave, ask questions, and be curious. And I could stop here if we were running out of time, but I've got some slides, so I may as well do it, right? When I had to come up with a title, the Simpsons food critic episode came to mind, and then a line I've often repeated. I think the line in the show was, why make 31 flavours when you can't get vanilla right? I think it's a reference to Baskin and Robbins, but I'm not 100% sure. So I changed it to why make 23 flavours, because I too like prime numbers. I think it's quite apt to describe accessibility in terms of vanilla ice cream. My quote of the day here is, bad vanilla tastes like disappointment. Bad accessibility feels the same. It turns out there are actually lots of different ice cream analogies, so I'm going to roll through some of them. And credit to our old mate ChatGPT for helping with some of these, because I don't have to think for myself all the time. So vanilla's the base flavour. Every other ice cream starts here, which means nail the fundamentals. and every fancy topping has a platform to sit on. Pretty easy analogy to get, that one. I like this one. Vanilla is plain only when it's bad. If you think about that for a second, a good vanilla ice cream is actually really good. It's only plain when it's meh. Get vanilla wrong and everything built on it tastes off. I think that's pretty fair. Vanilla is also the flavour most people actually pick. Ironically, in the middle of a Melbourne winter, I'm here talking about ice cream, and no one is looking for the dragon fruit macadamia chili surprise right now. But if I offered you a really, really good vanilla, I reckon that'd be tempting. But what that means for accessibility is people gravitate to what works. We can always go back to vanilla because if it's good, it's always delicious. Vanilla is also a template for infinite flavours. I said that's where it starts from, but vanilla becomes a foundation that's accessible. It allows you to innovate safely. So we love innovation. Innovation's still one of those buzzwords. But if you're accessible from the start, it means you can innovate safely. The real message from all of those analogies is really just get the base right and then go fancy. We often overcomplicate things rather than doing the simple things well. I would also say, possibly controversially, that accessibility compliance is like using vanilla essence. Whereas those inclusive human experiences, we have really nailed the experience for the user. That's going to be your true vanilla bean. I can't remember where they come from. What are they? No. Madagascar, that's the one. Madagascan vanilla beans. That's your inclusive human experiences. But that doesn't make vanilla essence bad because you've done something. Otherwise, you've just got milk and cream, maybe. We're changing slides, apparently. Here is an example of vanilla essence. I'd like to be really clear, this is a teaching moment, not a shaming moment. We are not shaming Exeloo. Exeloo is a family-owned Australian company who make public toilets. Public toilets are really, really important infrastructure, particularly accessible ones for people with disability and changing places that the Honourable Councillor mentioned before. If you don't know what a changing places toilet is, write that down on your notepad, look it up later. This sign with Braille transcription appears in one of their older model public toilets. The Braille is copied exactly from the printed words. And I quote, "If this light starts flashing, please leave the cubicle immediately." I think we all understand the problem here. I'm reliably informed that newer models have a Braille sign that says, "Warning, alarm will sound," or something similar, but I don't have photos of any of those, and they're not much, they're not learning moments. So they get points for accessibility, right? They absolutely get points for accessibility because they've done something. Even if I am, for some reason, searching the walls of a public toilet for a Braille sign, what they've given me is enough information to panic that something might happen. So I know I need to be on my guard and getting done quickly because something might happen if that light flashes. It's better than having no sign at all. So without vanilla essence in this case, I'd be completely unaware. So accessibility still has value, even in its vanilla essence form. On a larger scale, this actually reminds me of the world back in the 2010s, wasn't that long ago, when big data became a thing. Do you remember when personalisation was all the rage? All of a sudden you got an email, "Dear Kelly," and you went, "Ooh, someone wrote that to me." It's like they'd typed it themselves. My favourite were the emails I used to get from Spotify. Beginning days of Spotify, I used to get emails that go, We've got some new music for you, new suggestions for you. Brand new music from Ludwig van Beethoven. Like, it's pushing 200 years since Beethoven wrote anything. And I'm pretty confident that if they'd discovered a new opus, I probably would have heard about it. So you've sent me this email, and it just felt awkward. It's a personalisation that felt awkward, didn't hit the mark for me, and now I don't really want to concentrate or engage in any of your emails because you haven't quite got it right. So you tried, but you missed. A big data approach to personalisation is like accessibility. It's a super personal thing. Accessibility is about my needs. It's about what I need and what I use and the tools I use and how it's personal to me. But it's only successful when it's designed for everyone. And that is precisely your challenge as designers. At times in my work, I felt like personalisation was just, we're having fun with technology. Accessibility is the same. Technology is absolutely amazing, and you're going to hear about that, and you already have. It's done amazing things, but only when humans have been the centre of its implementation. One of my very first examples of this was actually from almost the first time I got on a stage to talk about accessibility, and it was when they're still talking about it, but back then it was, there's going to be a robot guide dog in the future. We're not going to need to train these ones anymore. But it fundamentally missed the point of having a snoozy kind of black Labrador to cuddle up to who everybody loves more than you. I tell you what, they're not going to... For those who don't know, Velvet's just taken the opportunity to stretch out and make a point. Thank you, darling. Where was I? They missed the fundamental point of the humanity of having a guide dog and the things that a guide dog actually brings, whereas pushing something that looks like a Dyson down the street doesn't come with that same level of humanity. And that's where technology isn't just the answer. Technology has to be done with the human element. So I want to give you a problem to solve. But first I need to run a quick test. So I'm going to stand up and demonstrate. As the slide actually shows, I want you to put your arms up and point your fingers towards each other. So your index fingers pointing towards each other. I hope everyone's doing it. Otherwise it'll just look really silly. The next thing you're going to do is shut your eyes and bring your fingertips together. I know for a fact that if you did it, the majority of you missed. How do you not know where the ends of your arms are? How do you not know where your fingers are? How does that not work? It's a really interesting quirk of the human body not being able to know where its bits are. I've participated in lots of designathons and hackathons in my career, and often they involve some kind of empathy building activity, right? One of those exercises is to shut your eyes and put toothpaste on a toothbrush. So I've just shown you that that's actually hard because you don't know where your hands are, you don't know where your bits are. Toothpaste, kind of messy. I think it's one of those things that once dried on is only comparable to dried Weet-Bix in terms of getting out. Then all these wonderfully enthusiastic designers and engineers get into solution mode and they go, well, maybe there's an app for that. Maybe there's a piece of technology, there's something mechanical that we can do to help you put toothpaste on a toothbrush. This is where I want to tell you that you missed a step. My next quote for the day is, a designer's craft isn't to outsmart the user, it's to build from their smartest shortcut. And that means understanding the problem deeply from a user perspective. Empathy does not equal lived experience. It can't, and that's actually totally okay, because I don't wish this upon anyone, quite frankly. Context is everything. And I actually had an example of this yesterday. Context is really important when you're designing things for people with accessibility needs. My arch nemesis, everyone's got one, mine is Microsoft Teams. It now has a capture test to dial into meetings, specifically meetings with the Victorian government, FYI. There's a visual version, which is, it's so old school. It's so old school. There's a visual version, which is write the words that appear in this funky image. And then there's an audio version where there's the robot voice giving you words to type into the box. For a start, neither of these options are even bad vanilla. These are expired milk versions of accessibility. So with the audio option, you need to understand the user context. Specifically for a screen reader user, they already have audio in their ears. There's already audio playing. So now they have to press play, navigate to the text box to do the thing. Then they have to listen to it, type in. But as you type, depending on your screen reader settings, it's also feeding back what you're typing so that you know what you're typing is correct. But you're also trying to listen to these robot words at the same time. It's all very complex. I'm also feeling stressed because this is 4 goes I've had at this now, and I'm late and holding everyone up to a meeting. Context is everything. Heaven forbid I also had English as a second language or a mild hearing impairment or some sort of motor control where typing was more challenging. I don't think I would have bothered. For someone who's only listening, maybe that's a straightforward experience. If all they have to do is listen, they don't have anything else playing, maybe it's a straightforward experience. Not for me. Anyway, that's my arch nemesis. Thank you for that little bit of therapy. I needed to get that out. Back to toothpaste. Do you know what the solution is for blind people brushing their teeth, or the user shortcut, as we're talking about here? Just squirt the toothpaste into your mouth. It's really, really simple. So accessibility is empathy plus lived experience plus your expertise. The magic happens right there. But I have to put a caveat here as well. Lived experience does not mean I know the solution to the problem. So yes, there are some users that have solved problems for themselves, but we can't solve all our own problems. Someone who is new to a vision impairment may not have heard that toothpaste thing before. We need to learn from each other. We need to go to TikTok to learn the hacks. We don't just know how to solve all our own problems. That's what designers' jobs are. So don't mistake lived experience for then asking that person, oh, so how should I do this? No, not their job, that's yours. So we now know the what, why, and who. No, we don't know the what. We know the what and why, but what about the who? So I've been talking about disability in relation to accessibility. Disability is about 20% of the population. It's a good round, easy number to talk about. But there's no magic point at which you don't need accessibility or at which accessibility kicks in. Accessibility is 100%. So that 20% is within that whole circle of 100%. Maybe you don't believe me. It's everyone. How many people wear reading glasses, contacts, some sort of assistive eyewear of some description? And how many people just put their hand up for the blind chick? Okay, now how many people saw me do that joke last year and forgot? It works every time. It really does. People wearing glasses are using assistive tech. That is accessibility. That's what makes your world accessible to you, is people with glasses. And that's already 50% of the population. And fun fact, by the time you're 50, it's 80% of the population. So it is 100%. And if you've ever used a remote control, typed on a keyboard, or used one of those electric toothbrushes, then you've used accessibility. You've used things that are designed for accessibility, because accessibility is just good human design. And like I said, this isn't Venn diagrams in high school. The disability community is not sort of somehow connected to what's needed for accessibility. They're right in the middle of that circle, and it expands out to everyone else. So if you start with that 20%, you're doing it for everybody. All right, so now we know the what, why, and who. What about the how? Now, the best piece of feedback I ever received was from someone who also doesn't remember that they gave me this piece of feedback, a little bit like my door's ajar kind of thing. And it was, Kelly, you need to tend your fires. I've upgraded it for you today to my quote, don't be an arsonist, stay for the marshmallows. I couldn't really shoehorn an ice cream analogy into fire. It just didn't work, sorry. I tried. The feedback I needed at the time was that I was doing a great job of lighting fires. I was doing the advocacy, but I wasn't helping making the change. They were mic drop moments for me, and they're a lot of fun. I love the mic drop moment of you've just gone and given people a, oh, I've never thought of that kind of moment. I love those moments, but it's not a good leadership skill, let's face it. So what I want to do is move advocacy into a place of change. Tending fires is about moving from a place of advocacy to one of making change. Sometimes that means you need to shout louder, call in the right people, and provide the right motivation. Sometimes that just means you need to dig in and get your hands dirty. Don't ask for permission, just do it. You've probably all heard the story about curb cuts. It's a very iconic accessibility story. The students from UC Berkeley who wanted to get around campus independently, they went out at night and created their own ramps. They built the ramps they needed. If you don't know the story, there is a 99% Invisible podcast on it that does a really great job of telling the whole story. If they'd only advocated for what they needed without actually making the change, it may not be an iconic story, and who knows how long it would have taken for us to get curb cuts as a standard thing. And now I can't sit here and publicly say petty vandalism is the solution to accessibility. I can't say it publicly, but we need action. And as I said before, making things accessible isn't always accessible to the people who need them. So we need the allies. If you're an ally, the best thing you can do is make change in a responsible, informed way based on learning about toothpaste, of course, and lived experience, all of those things. Light the fire, tend the fire, and be rewarded with marshmallows. The other thing about change is that it's tangible. It can be measured. This is a quote that I didn't write, but has actually been attributed to me because I've repeated it so much. And that is, we do the right things because they create value. The more value we create, the greater our capacity to do the right things. And in this case, the right things we're talking about are accessibility. This isn't about moral superiority or bragging rights or even about money. It's about designing better and knowing that designing better has value. And I suspect that a lot of designers don't hear that very often, that design has value. You are a value add in the work that you do. I was coaching someone the other day who works in accessibility and has that age-old problem by a business that wants data for every decision, and that age-old question, but how many people actually use screen readers anyway? that question signals a race to the bottom. It's not even a valid question. Screen readers are tools, not people. The people who use screen readers are customers. By treating the tools and the people the same, you're assuming that there's limited or no value in them. How about anyone with 2 working legs now has to take the stairs? You can't use lifts because lifts are an accessibility accommodation. So no more lifts for you. It's not about only the people who need it. It's for 100% of people. It may only be the certain people who need it, who use it at the time, but accessibility is for everyone. So the question of, but how many people use screen readers anyway, isn't a valid question. It doesn't matter. The right question is, how much extra value do we unlock for everyone when we get vanilla right? And we're not just talking about money, we're talking about brand value, we're talking about reputation, we're talking about customer satisfaction, we're talking about reducing tech debt. All of the things that businesses do actually care about are the value that's created from accessibility. Value goes straight back into the mix, and that value allows you to do more of the good things. It allows you to innovate. It allows you to add sprinkles to your vanilla. Even if you're currently doing vanilla essence, vanilla is still better than using any at all. The better you get at vanilla, the more value your vanilla generates. That's too many vanillas. What am I talking about? Accessibility isn't extra, it's the foundation of what we're talking about. It's the vanilla we all need to get right. Whew. Anyway, thank you for your attention. Ice cream, yeah, I hope there's some ice cream for lunch actually. I'm quite keen on some good vanilla right now. Thank you for listening. I hope you can stay curious, listen hard, perfect your vanilla. Velvet and I would love to meet you. I'm sure you'll want to meet Velvet, not me. There's a QR code to book a meeting with me on the screen right now. But either way, thank you and have a fabulous day.